Hello, everybody. So today, especially in today's environment, there is absolutely nothing more important than knowing what your cash flow is going to be. Might be personal cash flow, might be business cash flow. But what I want to cover today is how easy it is to get your hands around that, whether you're a $100 million business, $100,000 business, or literally just looking at your own personal finances. So I wanted to show you something really quick today that might help you get your hands around it within no more than half an hour, an hour. And then if you do this once a week for 15 minutes over the next 12 weeks, I promise you're going to find some cash in your business. And that's the ultimate goal, or in your personal finances and your business, no matter how big it is. So just want to run through this really quickly today because it's very straightforward. You only need 3 things for it. And we're going to talk through exactly how to get there. So here's what we're going to do. It's cash flow forecasting. And no matter what it is, our families, our businesses, our small businesses, our big businesses, cash flow is what we've got to understand. So 3 things we need. We need our bank statement. I know that many of you could have come up with something else for BS. I could as well. Need a bank statement for our checking account. That's it, our main checking account for whichever one of these things you're doing it for. For here, we're going to pretend we're doing it for a business, okay? Need the bank statement. You need to think about money coming in, and you need to think about money going out. And it's that simple of a 1, 2, 3. So what I'm going to challenge you to do here is sit down on, it's great to do it on a Sunday, probably, although you could do it on any day you want. But on a Sunday, if you're looking at your bank account, that they're not going to be adding a whole lot of transactions over the weekend. But sit down on a Sunday night, grab that bank statement, and just, you've got a whole bunch of transactions in there. And at some point, it's going to tell you what your ending balance is as of the night before. And that's what you want to know. That's all you need to know right now is what is that ending balance. And you're going to go to a piece of paper that you put together with 12 columns. I've done 3 here and then dot, dot, dot to the 12th column. And you're just going to go ahead and say my beginning balance for next week in cash is going to be the ending balance from my bank statement. So we're going to make this easy and just say that's 100. Step 1, done, complete, okay? Step 2, now you want to look at what money is going to be coming in next week. And yes, we're forecasting and it's not going to be perfect. And I know there are all the reasons in the world to say, I can't predict that. But I challenge you a little bit there to say, you kind of can. So there are a few things you know. You know that some people might be paying you next week in cash for things you've invoiced them for today. Or you know that Stripe or PayPal is going to be dumping money into your bank account. Or you know that you make 4 or 5 calls a week, and one of those turns into a client as a regular rule. So you can think through some of that and say, hey, if I really just sit back and think about it, I'm probably going to have about this much cash coming in next week. Now, if you've got some, regular revenue base, that's great because then you can really predict it. But a lot of us don't have that. However, in the larger businesses, we definitely do. And it actually makes it easier the bigger the business is because it gets a little more predictable. But think of something. The other thing you can do is go back into your bank statement for the last couple months and say, oh, it looks like I get about this much cash in per week. Add what you know specifically about next week and just pop a number in there. And let's say for purposes of this example, that number is 35. I know that $35 is going to hit my bank account next week. And you can think of this as 35,000 or 3,500 or $35. I'm just making the math easy because I don't do math in my head very well at all. So I got to make it easy. So that's that easy. You've done step 1. You've done step 2. Just like that, it's over. You're 2/3 of the way through the problem. Then you want to look at and say, okay, how much money is going to leave my bank account next week? And that also is a lot easier than you think because with money going out, it's usually a lot more regular. And you can grab these last few bank statements and look and pull all the regular stuff. We do this for our personal stuff. I go in and I look at when my car payments are, when my mortgage payment is, when my credit card payment is. And you just grab, the only thing you're not grabbing when you spend money on a credit card or that kind of thing. You're literally only grabbing the money that's going to leave your checking account. And that would be things like I just mentioned. Okay, so let's say we look at the last month or so of bank balance statements and we see that we're going to have, $25 is going to go out to pay a credit card balance, and $5 is going to go out to pay my VA, or $500 is going to go out to pay my VA. So now we've literally got this, and it's as simple as some very straightforward math. Now, I say simple, but I can't do it in my head. So I generally need a calculator. But if we started with 100, we added 35, and we took away 30, we know that we're going to have an ending balance next week of 105. And I say no, we don't know it, but we think by the end of next week, when I look at this next Saturday, so this is next Saturday, we think we're going to have $105 in the bank. This balance that we pulled here was this past Saturday. All right, piece of cake. So then now we're going to just stretch you a little bit more and say, okay, what next? Well, quite simply, the ending balance that we think is going to be there at the end of next week will be the beginning balance for week 2. Pretty straightforward. And then we just go through that process again. And that's why this takes a little bit of time the first time you do it, because I want you to go through this process for 12 weeks. So I'm just going to fill some numbers in here just to give you an example of why, okay? So I know that the following week I'm going to get $10 in, and I'm only going to spend, or I'm going to spend all $10. So I'll end up at 105 again. And I look at all of this and I go, in week 3, my beginning balance will be 105 again. But this time I'm going to get $100 in because it's a big week. By third week out, I know I get a whole bunch of payments that come in always on the third week, making this up. But I also know I got a lot of bills to pay that third week. So I'm going to actually take 80 out to pay bills. So you got 105 plus 100 is 205, minus 80 is 125. And then this is going to go up to week 4, and that'll go up to week 5, and that'll go up to week 6, until you finally get out here to week 12 or 13. Some people do 13 weeks. And let's just say when we do all that math for the 12 weeks, we come out here to week 12 and we have $200 in our bank account. And we know in week 12 we're going to spend, let's say it's another one like week 3, we're going to get another 100. We're going to spend another 80, so we'll end that week at 220. Now, when you've done that, okay, for those 12 weeks, and the first time, yep, it might take an hour to just think through it, but I promise you, if you do this, right, first time out of the gate, just do it and leave it be for that week. You're done. You're done at that point. You're not going to think much more through it. But when you get to the end of week 1, okay, so now it's the next week. Now it actually is next Saturday. And you're going to look and see how you actually did, okay? So you're going to say, oh, I didn't just get 35 in, I got 40 in. How cool is that? And I did spend my 25 and my 5. So I guessed pretty well for week 1, but instead of 105 at the end of the day, I have 110. And then you move this number up here, because instead of starting week 1 at 105, you're going to start at 110. And don't worry, I'm going to point you in the comments to a spreadsheet that's all set up with these formulas, so you don't even have to do it by hand. The formulas are all there, and it does all the updating to take the new balance up. But now you've looked at week 1, and now you've got the rest of these weeks out there still. And a lot of people, what we do is we'll add another new week once that first week of actuals is done. So now this is why when you do this next week, it doesn't take as much time, because all you're doing is putting the actuals in. You're looking at your bank statement, putting what actually happened this past week, and then adding a new week onto the end. But the really cool thing about that is after you do that for 1 or 2 weeks, you're going to start to see and understand some things out in the weeks ahead that you might have wrong. And so you can adjust it and tweak it and get a better sense of what's going on. That's the first advantage you're going to get. The first advantage you're going to get is you really get to understand how the money flows in your business. The second really cool advantage is you're going to find some shit. I should say stuff. You're going to find some stuff. So when you start looking at it this granularly and taking that 15 minutes once a week to just kind of update it and refresh it, you're going to see that extra subscription you've got, or you're going to see that magazine you never read, or you're going to see that bill that you're paying, and you're not really using that software when you think about it. Okay, so that's the second advantage. The third advantage is what I call my chutes and ladders advantage. And that is that you're going to see what you really think is going to be happening to the cash in your business. And remember, cash is king. Cash is everything, all right? But you're going to be able to look out here and say, oh, okay, that's what's happening to the cash in my business. And the reason that's so important and why I say chutes and ladders, for chutes, which are the things that slide all the way down to the bottom and get you back where you started, you may be able to look out here and say here in week whatever, you see that this ending balance goes to a negative. Well, you know that can't happen, right? You can't have a negative cash account balance. So you're able to look back here and adjust some things. You can say, hey, coming into this, say this is week 8, making that up, but say this is week 8. You can look at weeks 5, 6, and 7 and say, let me put some things off for a couple weeks until I get another big income week. So that's one thing you can do. That's the chutes. The other thing is the ladders. I had a friend of mine who was actually working on my own marketing. Because he was working on my marketing, he saw this model and he used the spreadsheet that I'm going to give you in the link. And he had planned to not be able to spend any of Christmas time with his family because he was really worried about revenue and cash flow. Well, once he went through this exercise, he realized that based on the pipeline he currently had of new customers and clients, he was going to be able to actually take an extra month off in January. So it can be life-changing for an entrepreneur who just needs some time to breathe. And that's the ladders piece of it. So just to recap really quickly, 3 things. You need your bank statement. You need to think about that money in, and I challenge you that it's not as hard as it may sound. You need to think about the money going out, which you can pull straight off of the patterns on your bank statement. And then you run through this little exercise in the spreadsheet, and take that first week to do it. And it's like, it'll take you about an hour. I give you that. But it's an hour well spent because from then on, every week when you update it, it's only 15 minutes. And what I'm going to tell you is if you literally do this for 12 weeks, just take the time and do this exercise. So over 12 weeks, that's like 4 hours of time. Over 12 weeks, and do this exercise, I promise you will find well worth more than the value of that time you spent hiding in here that you can do to either expand your business more quickly than you thought, stay away from a cash crisis, or actually start to think about where you might be able to save some money in expenses because you're spending stuff you didn't even realize you were spending. So that's my tip for the day. Do the cash flow exercise. Ping me below if you have any questions about how this works. And in the comments, I am going to put the link to the spreadsheet that makes all the math part easy. So all you're dealing with is grabbing that one bank statement, spending a little time and thought. I hope you all have a great Tuesday. This is Pam Pryor from the Profit Concierge with your tip for the day. Have a good one, everybody.